People said they delayed planting because it was too dry in the early spring, but right after that it rained, said Kong Mijin at the Seoul-based Daily NK, a website run by defectors. Crop conditions are fine now, said Kong, who said she had cross-checked the news of the harvest with several sources still inside North Korea. Weather data for areas in China that border North Korea's main crop zones show rains picked up from August, helping to alleviate dry conditions. U.S. Department of Agriculture satellite images suggest North Korea's crop yields will be similar to last year, said Kim Young-hwae, a North Korean defector and a specialist in the country's economy at Korea Finance Corp in Seoul. North Korea experienced a crippling famine in the 1990s when a combination of bad weather, economic mismanagement, and the demise of fuel subsidies from the Soviet Union all but destroyed its state-run public distribution system, PDS, of rationing. The FAO report, which described the PDS as the main source of food for around 70% of the population, said increased food imports would be required to ensure adequate food supplies for the most at-risk groups, including children and elderly. Food security improves. However, the rise of privately produced food sold in North Korean markets has slowly overtaken the PDS as the primary distributor of food, a factor which experts say official UN reports overlook. Many people rely completely on the markets and off-the-books private farming for their food, said Sokil Park of Liberty in North Korea, an organization which aids defectors. Corrupt officials will also siphon off government supplies and sell them for profit, said Park. This means international agencies' regurgitation of Pyongyang's official food data should be taken with a pinch of salt. In the years since the famine, farmers have also been granted increasing autonomy at local levels to proactively change crops, staving off the risk of food shortages, and reducing the reliance on imports. North Korea's grain imports totaled $26.5 million in 2016, down from $139.2 million in 2012, according to the state-run Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency. January to June imports this year were just $10.6 million, albeit up sharply on the $3 million over the same period a year ago. Prices in North Korean markets have remained relatively stable and continue to be a reliable source of food, according to defectors who closely monitor North Korean market prices and activity. The UN's World Food Programme, WFP, said there was still very little direct information available on how important markets are for household food access. WFP was consulting with the North Korean government to carry out more detailed studies on food security later this year, it said in an emailed response to questions. Another threat to North Korea's food security was an increase in UN sanctions following the country's sixth and largest nuclear bomb test earlier this month. The sanctions were likely to hit essential items such as oil, sugar, salt, vinegar, and milk powder, which are imported, controlled centrally and distributed via state shops at subsidized prices, the WFP said. But in contrast to more developed countries, agriculture in North Korea relies much more on mass mobilization of workers rather than mechanization such as harvesters and tractors. So while a lack of oil would likely slow the harvest, the overall impact would not be significant, according to Linda Lewis of the American Friends Service Committee, an NGO running farm projects in North Korea. Fuel shortages are not a new problem, and North Korean farmers are quite resourceful, Lewis said.